here's the thing. For everybody listening, don't make the same mistake the Bengals just did in any facet of your life.
People are going to get hurt. It's the hockey season.
What about the Jared Cook play on the sideline?
I was very tempted to just put defense.
I'm saying it right now. If Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
Come on, Austin and I have been saying this ever since Joe Burrow got injured.
I don't really think the Dodgers are going to make the World Series this year. I feel like they'll make it to the NLCS.
The Fernando Tatis extension, because that really surprised me.
Like you said, Ovechkin, he's getting older. He hasn't been playing as well as I imagined. He's one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, but he hasn't started off this season as hot as I would hope.
Hi, I'm Jeff Allen, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. You know, it's the off season, and it's the time for top 10s, and we're starting off with running backs, and this one is difficult. I feel like there are only a few leftovers from my running back list, and I'm very curious to see who you have, Austin. But yeah, what are your overall thoughts on your list?
I didn't think it was going to be that tough until I actually started to do it. I would like to ask beforehand, did you do any honorable mentions or no?
I do have some honorable mentions.
Okay, I have a couple. I'll say my. So one of my honorable mentions is Kenneth Walker. He's just outside my top 10. I think he's definitely an underrated guy. He's had some injuries, but I do like him. Another one of the guys I would like to mention is Pacheco. I think people underrate Pacheco because he's on the Chiefs, but his value to the Chiefs, I think, is a lot. And while I don't think he is a top 10 running back, I do think he deserves some praise.
You and I have a different opinion of Pacheco, but a lot of mine's predicting on his and kind of going off what he does, because I do think he's a great running back. And I think we'll see his potential go up. But so that's my view. Mine, Kenneth Walker was one of mine. I was viewing him. I have Tony Pollard. He had a tough season this year, so that's why I didn't feel like I could put him in the top 10. I think I'll have a bounce back season. And then I couldn't find a way to put Aaron Jones in. I think he's really good, and I just wasn't sure, given his injury year, how he's going to bounce back from that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has a great season this year.
Well, we can go right into my number 10. My number 10 is Aaron Jones. I think he deserves the top 10 spot. His yards per carry every year of his career has been amazing, even this past year at 4.5 yards. I don't think he's going to be injured. That's just a prediction. I do think he's a top 10 running back in this league. He's been so efficient every year, and he can also catch the ball in the backfield to help whoever their QB is next year, whether it is JJ McCarthy or whoever it is, Sam Darnold or whatever. I do think he's a top 10 running back. But who do you have at 10?
My 10 is Saquon Barkley. I keep him this low because of the injuries, but he played 14 games. He was close to 1,000 yards at 962. I just don't know about the injuries. And so I view him as a top 10 running back. Maybe he can bounce. Maybe he'll do great with that Eagles offensive line. It's just, can he stay healthy? He's one of the biggest guys. Like, if he was healthy, he'd probably be top 3. It's just, can he stay fully healthy and bounce and use his athleticism all during every game and just not have any nagging injuries?
Yeah, that's a great point. I do think that injuries have kind of moved him down my list a little bit, but I still think that he is higher than what you have. But I'll let you go with your 9.
So my 9 is Bijan. To me, I think he's going to do great next year. It's just, given his previous track record, which was just last year, he struggled a little bit. He played in all games. He had 976 yards, but it's looking at, I like to take in some previous track record and then kind of go in projection. I think he's going to have a huge year, and then he'll probably move up my top 10 because I view he's going to have a new play caller, and he can add a lot but right now I view him as number 9.
Okay, number 9 for you. Mine is a pretty similar aspect to your Saquon pick, but I'm just a little bit lower because he's had multiple injuries, at least recently. My number 9 is Jonathan Taylor. At his peak, one of the best running backs in the league, but he was even hurt last year again. And I don't necessarily know how I feel about his prospects this upcoming year. Also, I feel like AR, they're not going to run the ball as much with Jonathan Taylor, with Anthony Richardson. There's also not going to be much short passing. So I'm not the highest on Jonathan Taylor this year. I hope he does great, but I'm worried about his injuries more than I am about Saquon.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried. Given his highs and the previous track record, he's my 8th. But so
okay,
he's
well,
just
you can just go into your 8 then. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no. Since you just said that, he's my 8, Jonathan Taylor. For a lot of the reasons you said, I'm scared of his injuries. He did put together one healthy season, but his injuries lately have hurt, and that's all I have. Who is your 8?
My 8's Travis Etienne. I think Etienne is a very underrated running back in a lot of aspects. I'm a little bit worried about how they'll use him this year. The Jags have been a little bit confusing regarding his red zone touches, but I love Etienne. I think he's a great talent, and I think he'll have a successful season.
Etienne, I think, is really good. I just didn't put him in my top 10, but he is a good pick. And now I'll let you go into your 7.
So my 7 is Kyren Williams. There are a little bit of injury concerns, but I'm not that worried. He's a young running back still. He was amazing last year. Even when he came back from injury, Kevin, he was amazing. And I think he'll be great this year. I think he's really, really good.
Yeah, I'll get to him in just a sec. My 7 is James Cook. He is under Kyren Williams in rushing yards. He seemed to kind of turn it on later in the season, add a pass catching threat. I think he's a very good running back. But I kind of want to see him replicate that again because it has taken him a long time to get touches in the league and really improve on those touches. I remember his first touch was a fumble in his first career game. He's someone that's kind of taken a little bit longer to get onto the scene. So he's my 7.
I don't have James Cook in mind because I'm still a little bit worried about his usage. And again, you say he's right under Kyren, but Kyren played 12 games, really 11 because he started 11. And had 1,144 yards in 11 games started. So, and he had 95.3 yards per game. It led all the NFL. So I think Kyron's definitely a better running back. But I guess you agree with that too. But you can go into your 6.
Well, that's why I have Kyren at 6. Because he is, for a lot of the reasons you said, he really kind of bursts onto the scene and he's played really well. I think he follows that up. You mentioned his rushing yards. The reason he is not higher is kind of given his past track record. Is this just a one-year wonder? I don't really know. If he does it again, then he'll definitely move high. All the guys above him have played multiple seasons, and that's it. So you can go into your 6.
My 6 is Breece Hall. I really do think Breece Hall is going to have a great season now that Aaron Rodgers is the QB. And again, this is predicting for next year more than it is just ranking at the moment. Because I would definitely say that Kyren is better than Breece Hall, but I think Breece Hall has a better season than Kyren does this year. I think, again, the offense will be significantly better. And even though he only had 994 yards and 5 touchdowns, I think it'll be easily over 1,000 yards with probably double-digit touchdowns. He had 9 touchdowns last year if you include rushing and receiving. So I think he gets almost 1,600 yards from scrimmage. I think it'll be closer to 1,800 this upcoming year with probably 15 rushing plus receiving touchdowns. And I think Breece Hall, even though right now, if we're talking about right this second, Kyren is better, I think Breece has a better season.
Yeah, this one is difficult because I like taking pass, but I'm also like, okay, building off their pass, do I think they replicate it? Yes, or maybe no. That's kind of why I like taking to some previous accounts. But yeah, I do have Breece Hall in my top 5. My 5 is Pacheco. I think he adds such a great dimension in the running game for the Chiefs. And I think he has a huge year, especially this year for the Chiefs, and enters that top 5. I know he's in your honorable mention, so I'm jumping very high. But to me, he has more experience. I know Kyren and James Cook have way more, much more rushing yards. than him, as he's not super high in it. But to me, I just view him as the better running back, and that's why he's in my top 5.
Okay, my 5 is Saquon. Again, I'm not as worried about his injuries. I think he'll have a great year for the Eagles. I think the Eagles will utilize him a lot. He's a Pennsylvania, that's where he went to college. I believe he's a Pennsylvania native as well. I'll double check that. But I just really do think that he'll have a great year this year. I'm not as worried about injuries, especially because I think that they won't. Oh, he's from New York, but he went to Penn State, which is in Philadelphia, and he's folk hero around there. And while he missed 3 games last year, I'm not worried that he's going to be overused. I feel like in the Giants, they tried to live and die by Saquon, and when the Eagles aren't doing that, he'll still get a lot of carries because their O-line is better, and he'll have a great year.
I can definitely see him having a healthy year, and by the next year viewed as a top 5 running back. My 4 is Breece Hall. I think he is going to have a huge year. He really does provide a lot. He has all those intangibles. He played in all 17 games, so I'm not really worried about his injuries. I think he'd get viewed better if he didn't have those injuries. But yeah, I think he's going to have a great year. And he just missed the 1,000-yard mark. But I think he's been a guy where I'm like, okay, this guy is going to be a huge player. And to me, he's just got a lot more intangibles. And I think that's more realistic. So that's why he's in my 4.
Okay, who's your 3?
My 3 is, I know this guy's coming off a huge injury, but I kept making changes, and I just view him as a really great running back, and that's Nick Chubb.
That's a guy I don't have actually in my top 10. I was thinking right now I need to put him in honorable mentions. I do, because don't count out Chubb, even though he's had 2 of the worst injuries I've ever seen. Literally speaking, 2 of the worst injuries to a knee I've ever seen in my entire life, besides Sean Livingston in the NBA. It's Nick Chubb, and he works so hard. I would love to see Nick Chubb have a great season. I actually didn't mention my 4 when I said to go to your 3, but my 4 is Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Gibbs could be an amazing receiving back this year, and even running back. Gibbs, now that he's not a rookie, will have a greater understanding of the offense and what everyone needs to be doing. But still, he had almost 1,000 yards. He had 10 rushing touchdowns. In yards per scrimmage, he had 1,261 while having 11 rushing plus receiving. So I think he'll have a great year, and I'll go into my 3. My 3 is Bijan. I'm much higher than you. There's a new head coach, and the head coach wants to actually utilize their star players. I think Bijan has an amazing season and really jumps into the scene.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs is really good. He's not in my top 10. I just kind of need to see a little bit more from him, but he does have a lot of potential. And yeah, with Bijan, I can definitely see him moving up, and that's kind of why the Falcons took him that high, to have someone like that. But we'll just have to see. I'll let you go into year 2.
So my number 2 is Derrick Henry. Henry had one of the worst O-lines in the league last year, and still had an amazing season. I think that with Baltimore, with the O-line that they have, will be amazing. He had almost 1,200 yards from rushing, 12 touchdowns again with a bad O-line. And I don't care that he'll be 30 this year. I think Derrick Henry is still that good.
Yeah, he is that good. He's my number 2 as well. There wasn't really a debate for my top 2. It was kind of everyone else. After that, Derrick Henry, I think he's not going to be the focal point of the Ravens offense, which I think is just going to help him capitalize on the less focus he gets, because he has the talent. We'll see how he performs this season, because he is turning 30, but he may be someone where you're just like, that doesn't really apply to him. But yeah, number 2, Derrick Henry. He's still the king. Well, he was the king, but he still has that ability. But number 1 is Christian McCaffrey. For me, 1,500 yards rushing. Also, the way he adds in the passing game is amazing. He is the best running back. He's been a guy that's battled injuries. And it says he played 16 games. I think they just rested him for 1 game. So this is what we could see with a lot of the other guys, where they stopped getting injured. McCaffrey did deal with a lot of injuries earlier on in his career, and once he got to San Francisco, he kind of just turned it on, and that's why he's the number 1 running back. I don't think there's much explanation needed here.
Yeah, I think we knew that CMC was going to be one. I don't think there was ever a question. He had one of the best running back seasons of all time. Probably could have won MVP, even though Lamar definitely deserved it. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. There's not much to really say. It's CMC. He is that. He's really that good. And there's a huge gap between him and second.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's not really much explanation. It was easy for me, MVP finalist. Could have won it. And that's all we got. I'll toss this over to you to close it out.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. Please let us know your top 10. Kevin and I obviously don't agree with us. So tell us which one you'd like more or which one, if you do disagree with both of us, tell us we're both wrong. And please catch you in the next video.